Making the simple complicated is commonplace. Making the complicated simple, really simple, that's creativity. Charles Mingus. My friends, that is what we work on each and every day. Taking the complications of the marketplace and breaking it down to what? Heikin Ashi candlesticks, volume, and then being able to see where this market is going. Whether we're looking at the S&P 500, we're looking at the NASDAQ 100. We're looking at 20-year U.S. government bonds, gold, or Bitcoin. Again, this is what we cover for you every day. And of course, if you're a Patreon member, you get the 3-wave trades every week, the charting cryptos, commodities, and currencies earlier. And of course, you get our weekly vertical crossovers on the S&P 500. We try to find you 20 at the most. Now, let's jump into these charts and see how we ended the week. Now, again, what we are looking for typically is high volume, and either like what we saw happened last was we had high volume hitting a low. If it's the opposite of top, then we want it to be a high. And then we want a turnaround candle. Here, we turned around to go up, and this is just the classic thing. We have higher than average volume with a green spinning top. Then things took off. Now, you can have other things occur, like here. You can have things bottom with higher than average volume. Then you can have them turn around. And I hate that this thing pops up right in the middle. Okay, you can then have things turn around and you get a green spinning top here, but look, there's not the volume to support it. It pops up and then dies and then rolls over. Now, average volume, a little higher than average turnaround. And look at that. We came in and we captured one average true range on the 2-day chart. That was 1.71%. We just grabbed there in our practice trade. This one, I'm trying to remember, it was 8%, 9% again. So that's what we're looking for. That's the perfect setup. Now, we didn't have higher than average volume when we hit the high. What is that telling us? That's telling us that it's being driven up by market forces or driven down by market forces. And then you have all this confusion in here. The smart money is buying. The dumb money is selling. That's what's going on right here. The insiders are getting ready to ride the price up. How do we know that? Well, we saw things with high volume hit a low. Then we saw this high volume and no candle. Just a lot of volatility back and forth. Now, what we saw from what happened later and this surge up move is the dummies were thinking the market was going to keep going down. The insiders, the smart guys who knew what was going on, they were buying what these guys were selling, and then they turned it around, bought it on the cheap, and rode it up. Now, being able to see that trigger now is more complicated. We had a high, but we didn't have the super high volume. We saw some volume here testing to see if it was the high, and it wasn't, and it drove up higher. Then we saw things drop with this doji. Now, somebody was buying, somebody was selling, followed by what? Not more down movement, okay, but some up movement. So what does that tell us? It tells us we don't know what the hell's going on. That's what that tells us. We're not sure what the insiders are doing and what's really happening. So what do? We just hang tight, buds. That's what we do. We hang tight. Market was up a little bit, 0.07%. It's still below the weekly trend line on the 2-day and on the half-day. So again, we're just hanging tight. We look at the NASDAQ 100, same kind of thing, even more so. We've got almost a doji here. We had a down week, and then things just sort of, hung around. They started after really sloping down on the half-day chart. This is where you can see the intraday activity. This is the 2-day, and of course the weekly. And this is the chart we trade off of. We use the 2-day average true range here to help us set our profit and loss bands. And remember, when we hit that one average true range in profit, we sell half our position and let the rest of it ride. That's called running out your profits. If we hit, the loss band, one average true range down, then we sell everything and get out. We take a little loss, and then we just keep on moving, waiting for the next good setup. But for a setup to be good, volume needs to agree with our candlesticks. And when I say agree with it, well, this is an incongruity here, but it's agreeing with what we know, that most likely the insiders are selling to the chumps who are buying, it's the opposite. The insiders are buying from the chumps who are selling, thinking the market's going to keep going down so they can get it on the cheap and ride it up. It's the opposite at the top. So just keep that in mind. I got a great volume training for you at the end of the video today. Just hit it and it will take you to chartingwealth.com, and we've got a great article there for you about Jesse Livermore and volume, the master, the king of volume. You will get a kick out of it. So again, not a whole lot happening as we end the week with. Now, things could surge and take off. Okay, so they do. We couldn't see it coming, so we're not taking any dumb risks. We're not gamblers, my friends. We want to have everything in our favor. I've said this the last 2 days. This is the third day in a row. First rule of trading, don't lose money. Second rule of trading, don't lose money. Third rule of trading, make money. You can't be a dummy. You start having losses, they will kill you. That's why you practice trade. That's why it doesn't cost you to learn. But if you start using real money, it does. Now, what do we see here? I went ahead and drew this, not that I was excited about it or anything, because we didn't have any of this backed up by volume, but I went ahead and put in the trend line. Look at it. It's almost flat. Not very helpful, is it? Again, we've broken it, and we did have a little bit higher than average volume. Last week, we had average volume. And so it does look like somebody's selling, but not a lot of volatility there. Somebody was selling, somebody was buying, and then things sort of rolled over this week. So again, we're not getting told a lot by this. So we'll just hang tight and again, watch, wait, and see which way bonds go over the course of this next week. We look at gold. Now gold, again, bouncing off this purple line. If you ever see those on our charts, they are potential ceilings. It's been a ceiling back in May, a ceiling in November, a ceiling three times in December, and, well, that's in January. And look, we're touching it again. Now, we do have a red spinning top. Looks like we're coming off of it. But again, no volume here to back any of this up at all. We did have high volume here. And again, slid sideways, popped up even higher, and now is trying to roll over, but without volume to support. So we're just hanging tight, waiting for this market to settle out, and that's okay. You don't make stupid trades when the market's not telling you what to do. Anybody who tells you to trade every time you might think there might be something going on, I don't think's helping you. But again, that's what I think. I want you to learn, decide what you think, practice trade, show yourself approved. And once you want to spend your own money, you spend it based on what you've learned and what you feel. We're not a stock calling service or net. We are an education firm. Now let's look at Bitcoin. Pulling back today, actually the last day and a half, pretty substantially, pushing through the weekly trend line as it ended the week. Be interested to see on the 24-hour day Bitcoin chart what it does over the weekend. 2.85% down. Again, we can see we've had wicks penetrate, well, at least one penetrate the weekly trend line in this latest move up on the 2-day chart. But again, we haven't seen the candle push through it yet. When you look at all the up movement and the pullback here, small candle, but again, look at all that volume. So you can see people were trying to push it up. It would not hold it. So that's telling us something with Bitcoin. If this is the topper and we get a down candle this next week with higher than average volume, what does that show us? We've reached a top, and we say have a spinning top or a doji here, or even a strong down candle. that can sure show us that this latest up move may very well be coming to an end. So put that down in your notebook and look for that next week. You might be able to find a short position on Bitcoin to practice trade. That is where we are. We always love to hear from you. Really appreciate our Patreon supporters. If you're not one, want to become one, please do so. The first thing we'll send you is Options Made Simple, the Charting Wealth Way. I think it's the best options training on the internet. But that's me. I hope you will, and I hope you will join us, help support the cost of putting the show on. We do this for free each and every day. The training that we have there online is all for free. And if you've not signed up for our newsletter, sign up for that. Every day you get the daily reviews, once a week the weekly review and forecast, and of course a special training each and every day. God bless, my friends. All the best from the whole team at Charting Wealth World Headquarters.